he doesn't have the accolades. Sure, he has the Pro Bowls.
It's not everything, but he doesn't win the Super Bowl, and we're not talking about this if that doesn't happen.
Welcome to FN Studios. Here with Cody, Kevin, and Greg, this is the Dropout Sports.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Dropout Sports episode. You got Cody, that's me. Kevin is somewhere on the screen, and then Greg is also somewhere on the screen. Actually, we're all somewhere on the screen. So thank you for tuning into the Dropout Sports. We are really excited to bring you another episode this week. Before I say anything, I know this is like drawn out, but go ahead and subscribe. We've grown a lot in the past couple of weeks, so thank you for the support, guys, and keep commenting different things. We'll keep making videos for you guys, and it's a lot of fun. But today we got a topic that we're actually really excited about. It's not necessarily topical, but we would like to talk about it because it's just interesting, and that is the 2004 draft class. But before we get into that, Kevin, how you doing?
Nah, man, not much. Just college kicking my ass so far, second week in. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you boys about football, about baseball, about anything. I mean, just getting to talk about the guys we grew up with, it's going to be a blast. I know it.
I'm excited. Same thing for me, week 4 in college. Busy boy right now. But I got time for this. I got time to have some fun.
But today we're going to be talking about the 2004 draft class, specifically the 3 quarterbacks that are really known in that class. And I think we all know them. Big Ben, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Daddy Phillip. He's got a lot of children. But we're going to rank them on their football skills today, not their baby having.
Wait, what? Shit, I got to redo all my research.
Redo the list. I know. I put Phillip number 1. Everybody put Phillip number 1 in that category. But, as much as I want to talk about Phillip and his productive system, I'd like to talk about something else. Go ahead, Kev. I want you to open up everything we're going to be talking about because I know you love looking at old draft classes and talking about them. So
when I think of the term best quarterback, I think of how their career was, how their legacy is going to be seen, and whether it's a weird one, but whether I'm going to remember them in 20 years. And I know he wasn't the worst out of these 3. And I'll be real, Eli Manning might have been the worst out of these 3 just based on the lows that he had, but he also had some really big highs. So I'm putting Phillip Rivers at the bottom purely because, when I think of the life that I want to live, I want to experience the highest of highs, but that doesn't come without the lowest of lows. And someone who just stays in the middle, they're not going to remember their life. They're not going to remember the highs and how good they are. And when I look at Phillip Rivers, I'm not going to remember the highs. And the highs for him were maybe getting past the first round of the NFL playoffs and talking trash, talking garbo for sure. And he had the stats. I know he's I think it's 6th all time in quarterback rating in NFL history. He's got a really good record. He tailed off in some of those years in San Diego and Los Angeles, but he always stayed 9-ish, 10 wins. And he was always a competent 4,000 yard plus quarterback. But he doesn't have the accolades. Sure, he has the Pro Bowls, but what else does he have? A comeback player of the year, which shout out to him for that. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying I'm not going to remember him. And therefore, I think his legacy is a bit dampened for that reason.
I feel like I'm talking to Plato over here or something. But I'm thinking a little differently than you, it sounds like. For me, I'm going off the quarterback skill. I'm going off of their skill. And you know what? Eli Manning is the worst out of these 3 quarterbacks. And I think that's an easy choice for me. Sure, 2 Super Bowls, whatever. He's going to be remembered for that. But you know who should be remembered for that instead is the rest of those Giants teams. Eli Manning, sure, he had a good playoff runs to get them to that Super Bowl, but I don't care about a couple of random good 3-game win streaks. Sure, they were in the playoffs. Sure, they won the Super Bowl. But guess what? He wasn't as good as Phillip Rivers, as Ben Roethlisberger. He wasn't as good as those guys. He had seasons where he went 500, 7-9, 6-10, 6-10, 3-12, 5-11. All of those seasons are Eli Manning seasons, and he was a big part of that. He didn't have a great team around him sometimes, but a lot of the time, when he did get to the Super Bowl, it was in big part because of the team around him.
He had great running attacks. I mean, friggin' Ahmad Bradshaw, Brendan Jacobs, Mario Manningham, other wide receivers. And then his defenses he had were great. fact of the matter is he led them to the Super Bowl. A quarterback led them to the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean anything to you?
Let's talk about David Tyree and how Eli Manning would have never won that first Super Bowl without David Tyree and the helmet catch. And
that's not the
who escaped the pocket.
That's not everything.
It's not everything, but he doesn't win the Super Bowl, and we're not talking about this if that doesn't happen.
I mean, you can say that if the Bengals don't beat the Vikings this year, they don't make the Super Bowl. So it must be because of Jermaine Pratt making Dalvin Cook fumble under a minute.
But guess what? That's not going to make me say Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the league either.
I don't know. I think you can't base a quarterback being last based off of a great catch by a receiver. I mean, he placed that ball there. He put it in the only place.
We're not talking worst of all time. We're talking last out of 3 Hall of Famers.
I guess it is my turn I've already reacted to what Greg has just said, but I guess it's my turn to place who I have in last, or the worst quarterback out of these 3s, I should say. And I've gone back and forth for a couple of these, and like you said, it is tough to decide, although I don't like his Eli take. I'm going to be also placing Phillip Rivers last for the reason that he was a fun guy to watch. He threw funky. He defined odds. I mean, the trade between, with Eli and him, it became like the story, and it was like, at least both of them panned out for those teams and fans and stuff, although the Chargers never got a Super Bowl out of them. Phillip had a great run last year with the Colts, and before he retired, I mean, they all had great careers, but Phillip just came short of that Super Bowl, that MVP season, that type of play. He was always overshadowed, and that's why I think these quarterbacks had their times to shine. Phillip Rivers never had his time to shine.
Just to be the median between you two, if I were just purely off of the way that they played and how good they were, yeah, Eli Manning might be the worst, but you just can't take out of that's like taking, I don't know. I don't know.
What you're telling me is that you think Bill Russell is a better basketball player than LeBron James.
That's different.
Michael Jordan.
That's different.
That's too different.
Talking titles here. We're talking titles here. He is way more.
But they played at the same time. They didn't play 70 years apart.
I don't know. I think legacy is too much apart. Like in the NBA, it's like Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson never got a ring. I'm still gonna take his talent, but if you put him over, Dwayne Wade, him against Dwayne Wade, I'm gonna pick Dwayne Wade, just because he has the ring or rings. I don't know how many, but like it's just that much more of a catalyst.
Yeah, because I think if you say like who was the more talented player between Dwayne Wade and Allen Iverson, I think most people would take Allen Iverson. But if you're talking about like who's the better, like who had the better career, it's Dwayne Wade.
I mean, I just think there's different ways to look at it. I'm looking at who was the better football player. You know what? Let's just jump straight. Should I jump straight to my number one? Because I want it to be a little bit of something here.
Sure.
Let's talk about why Phillip Rivers is the best one out of these 3.
Go ahead, man.
I'm sorry. He's just got the numbers. The numbers are there for him. And his team that surrounded him was never a great team. Phillip Rivers is the best quarterback literally ever that didn't make it to a Super Bowl. The best quarterback that never made it to the Super Bowl easily. Not even close. I mean, he's got 63,400 yards on his career. His quarterback rating 95.2 in his career. He was great just about the entire time he was playing. Ben and Phillip Rivers for me is a lot closer than it was for me putting Eli at the bottom. I really thought about, is Ben number one, is Rivers number one? It was kind of hard for me to choose that. But and you know what? Maybe the 10 kids, maybe that's what made me do it. I don't know. The guy's got a little bit of game. I guess let me talk about Ben Roethlisberger first. And also, here's another thing. You're talking MVP type play. You know who never got any MVP votes? Neither Eli Manning or Ben Roethlisberger. Neither of them. Phillip Rivers got MVP votes. He was 3rd in the running in 2009, and he was 6th in it in 2008. He made 7 Pro Bowls. He was 4th in Offensive Player of the Year in 2010. His peak is, I think, better than any of these guys.
You got me there. But I will say, I will say that I still respect Phillip Rivers before this gets taken out of hand. But if I'm saying like this is the quarterback I want on like to lead my team, this is like they had the best career, but like I'm also putting that into account. You know what I mean? Like I'm also putting like who was the better quarterback just in general, and I'm thinking about career everything. And like Phillip Rivers, I'm sorry. It might just be because he throws funky, or like he's got to be stressed out for having 10 kids. He's got to be stressed out. But I'm sure he didn't have 10 kids his whole career. That's not possible, I don't think. I'm going to say my 2. And the reason this person is my number 2, well, first of all, it's Eli Manning. Eli Manning is 2 for me, and I'm going to go with that because he has the Super Bowls, which I know, whatever, team, whatever. He still, he was inconsistent enough not to be my number 1, and obviously Ben is my number 1. He was so inconsistent, and he dropped off so hard that it was like impossible for me to put him at number 1. And the reason he's not number 3 is because he still had those great moments where he took a team and did what a quarterback is supposed to do, Greg. He did what they were supposed to do.
There's 22 starters for a football team. And today, these days, you're thinking about today's game, how it's way more quarterback driven than it used to be. It used to be a lot less quarterback driven in the past. Today, sure, that's different. You only really get the great quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, except for Jimmy G somehow. We can talk about that later. I don't know how he keeps doing it. He finally lost this weekend. But obviously, the quarterback has always been, the main part of the team, the biggest deal here. The ball's always in his hands at the beginning of the offensive play. I just don't think it was as important then.
In those 2 Super Bowls, just to bring up, Eli Manning, it wasn't him being carried in this Super Bowl. He threw for 3 touchdowns in the 2 games. That's not like a crazy amount, obviously, but it really isn't. But he had a 96.2 rate. He was like fine. Like he wasn't being carried is what I'm trying to say. Like he was a great leader for that franchise. He did a lot of things for them, and he just left. I feel like people forget how good he was because of the way he left on a bad note with things how were with Odell and how bad he got and how fans were turning on him because it's New York. So I feel like just people forget how good he was and how many things he did for that franchise, and he sits at my number 2. But before Greg says anything else, Ben Roethlisberger is my number 1 because in general I think he was just the easily the most consistent out of the quarterbacks. He led his team and I feel like the Steelers absolutely ran the AFC North for the longest time, and as a Bengals fan I just saw it firsthand that the guy was unstoppable when it came to tight situations. I mean, easily the most clutch out of these quarterbacks when it comes to a clutch factor. So Ben is my number 1.
Let's talk real quick. It's just a quick comment. We can move on to Kevin right after this.
Do it.
Eli Manning had an 84.1 passer rating on his career. 84.1 to Phillip Rivers' 95.2.
So I think actually in terms of consistency, I would put Phillip Rivers at number 1 if we're just basing it on consistency. Just because, Big Ben, he would have those years where he would go like he'd have like a 4,200 yard, 32 touchdown, 9 interception year. Next year he'd have like 3,200, and then he'd go like 20 and 15. I don't think consistency. I know that's just the stats, but I don't think consistency is the right word to use for him. I think that he was consistently dominant. Like his teams were consistently dominant. With that said, hey, Big Ben, you're number 2. Really bad choice. I know. I sound like an Eli Manning lover boy, but maybe I am. Here's why I'm going to put Big Ben at 2. Big Ben, great quarterback, possibly a first ballot Hall of Famer. The 2 Super Bowl teams that he had, the 2008 or 9, I think, 2008-9, he had the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, and he had the 20th scoring offense. He was leading an offense that was less than decent, I guess, by that standard. And then the 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers, they were going against Matt Hasselbeck at quarterback. His 2 Super Bowls I don't think they were the greatest achievement, whereas Eli Manning won against the Patriots with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and everybody that they can get out of free agency. I know those last 4 years, they were a downhill turn. The Giants were not the best organization. Eli did not get the most. Well, he did get a lot of help in the early 2000s, but towards the late 2000s, he wasn't getting a lot of help. But I just think in the short time that we got to see prime Eli Manning, he knew how to lead a team to exciting victories, to memorable victories. And, He doesn't have he doesn't have the best stats. He's a career 500 quarterback, quite literally 117 and 117. If you guys throw stats at me, I'm gonna lose any day. But I'm just speaking with my heart out here, and I'm gonna put Eli Manning at number freaking 1. Okay, so we have a list, and now we have a rivalry, I guess. Yeah, I guess tune in next week for Eli versus Baker.
Yeah, for real. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Dropout Sports Show. This was another episode where we talked about some random 3 white dudes that played in the NFL. They were very good, but yes, they're still random. Thank you for tuning in. Just go ahead and subscribe. Check out our other videos, and we'll be coming out with these, I think, every Thursdays it is. So just keep an eye out for them around that area. All right. Have a good one. Thanks.
Just a bunch of dropouts.